The first thing I want to do is something that I've shown you how to do before, and that would be draw a line of action. Okay? A line of action is a line that's going to help you get the right posture or position of your figure. For most of you, if you have a figure that's standing straight up and down, you should probably start with maybe a vertical line going right down your page, kind of showing you a line of action if he's standing straight up. Now my fellow here is kind of tilted a little bit, so I'm going to sketch in like this a line of action that's got a little bit of a curve to it. Because my drawing of Shrek, my figure of Shrek, he's not quite straight up and down, but he's tilted just a little bit. So I think starting out with a line of action, like you did on those simple shape drawings, is a good idea. Okay, so there's a line of action for myself. Okay, now the next thing I want to do is I want to make a drawing of perhaps the largest shape. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and draw. I'm thinking I'm going to draw his chest, and I see that like this as an oval. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and sketch this in and show you what I mean, show you kind of how to do this here. Notice I'm holding my pencil pretty far away from the tip when I'm doing a sketch. Okay, so I'm going to use an oval, which is one of my favorite simplified shapes. Okay, I think that's a nice way to start like that for his chest. Okay, I think about that looks about right. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and add another shape in here. He's wearing a vest, and to me this vest looks very rectangular, so I'm going to add that right now. And I'm noticing that the vest is tilting downward. It's not quite straight across. Okay, so I'm just going to draw a simplified rectangle. And those are the simple shapes that you should be using. You know, the circle, the oval, the rectangle, triangle, all those easy to draw, simplified shapes. Okay, so I'm just going to build up this character, talk about it a little bit with you, so you kind of understand the process, how to draw it simple first, then to make it a little more complicated. Okay, now his face. Now what I'm going to use is an oval for his face, and what I want to judge is about how far away from the bottom of his vest is his chin. So I'm going to put a mark here, about like that. And his head's maybe about this far away. And I'm just going to draw his head as an oval. I don't want to get into his nose or his eyes or his mouth. All I want to do is represent it with the simplest form possible. That would be like an oval right here. And notice how my head is kind of tilted following this line of action. Okay. Next thing. I'm going to look down here and I see a separation. He's kind of wearing like a tunic. And so I see that like this is kind of a bent rectangle. So I'm going to put a little mark over here. And another one about right here. Okay. I got his belt about here or so. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw this as kind of a bent rectangle. I'm thinking something like this here. Now you should be looking at your figure and trying to see the simplified shapes that make up that figure. Okay, and I think already I'm starting to develop a nice little sketch. Kind of reminds me of Shrek the Ogre. Okay, next thing. Now on that handout you kind of see what I like to call some stick figure construction. I think that's a good method. So what I'm going to do real quick is right about here, I'm going to draw a line representing a thigh bone. Maybe about there. It's very short. And I'm going to draw a circle about here representing a knee joint, about like that. Okay, and then I'm going to draw then the outside of the leg using this as kind of a guideline. So I put in this thigh like this, and it'll kind of tilt like that. Okay. Right now I'm going to use a little bit of negative space looking here. How much distance is there between the two thighs over here? I'm thinking maybe something like this. It's pretty close to the edge. Here's my little stick. And his knees look to be about straight across from each other, so I'll just draw a little indicating line to kind of show me the height of that second knee, and I think I'll put that about here like this. Keeping my drawing very light and loose. Now when I'm done with this stage in a couple of minutes, it should look like a handout for simple shapes drawing. That's what it should look like. Okay. I think he looks really funny right there with these really short legs, but of course I've just drawn part of the legs. Okay, lower leg. Now when I look at my Shrek, I can see that his leg kind of tilts in, so I'm going to draw again that stick like this. And it's going to slant a little bit. Now it's a relatively short leg, and I'm going to use another circle for his ankle joint right there. Stick figure construction, I think is pretty good. Okay, now I'm going to get this kind of coming in here. I'll just draw the outside of the leg like that. Kind of bumps out right here for a calf muscle like this. And that'll connect down into his ankle like that. Okay. Now his foot reminds me of a triangle, maybe like a wedge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a shape to represent that. I'm going to add a little perspective to it so it looks 3D. I just want to keep this foot as simple as I can. Something like this here. I don't want to get wrapped up into any of the details at this point. Now what I think is interesting about this foot is the way I drew it. It shows me the side of his foot right here, and then I'm also showing the top of the foot like right there. I think that makes it look 3D, which I always like to see. Okay, let's do another leg. Stick figure construction. Make sure the ankles are about straight across from each other. So I'm going to do this right here. I'm going to use a circle for the ankle. Once again, I'm going to get that kind of calf coming down here like this. Here's the outside of it like that. Okay, and I want to use some similar construction. I want to make these about the same way, checking the negative space between the two heels. Yep, pretty good there. I'm going to draw a triangle like this. And something about like that. Okay, I think that looks pretty good so far. I can kind of see the character of Shrek begin to develop through this sketch. Okay, now I want to take a look at his arms. Now, one of the things I'd like to do is draw by comparison. So what I'm looking at right now is I'm looking at his hand. And I'm asking myself this question in my mind. How close is his hand to his little tunic, his little shirt right here? And I'm going to draw his hand right here as a circle. And I'm going to position it about right there. He's got a pretty big hand, so I'm going to go ahead and draw that like that as a circle. Okay. And then I see the shoulder up here a little bit lower than the top of his vest. About like that. I'm seeing the negative space between his body and his arm. I'm looking at that. There. And notice how I've constructed a fairly simple arm, just like that, kind of using some rectangles, maybe a little cylinder shape like this, and once again the circle for the arm. Okay, I'm going to draw by comparison again. I'm going to take a look at his vest. I'm going to find that other hand. It's about this close to it. And I'm just going to draw a circle right here once again, simplified version of his hand, shoulder, arm, down like this. And it looks like his elbow is a little higher than the vest. So I'm just going to keep that just right here like this here. Here's his elbow like that. And then his arm will kind of connect in here like this. Okay, now a couple other minor things I want to do here. I'm going to go ahead and draw in a couple details on his head. I'm going to add an ear as a tube with a oval at the end, right there. This other ear is much lower on the page. It'll be over here like this, like that. And I'll add a little oval on the end right there. Okay. Now I usually don't like to erase, but for a moment I'm going to take off these simplified shapes that are inside his head, and I'll show you how I want to start that face of Shrek, just kind of showing you a little method here. Okay, his face is tilted. My line of action was pretty good, but I'm just going to go ahead and draw a tilted line that cuts through the middle of his face. Okay, his eyes, fairly high on his head. Now all I want to do for his eyes is draw the line on which they rest. So that's going to be about right there. I want to keep this face really simple at this moment. Okay, he's got a very short nose, and all I want to do is locate the bottom of that nose about there. I'll put another line kind of going across his face. Distance between the nose and the mouth, maybe about like this, slanted. He's a very happy ogre. It's kind of like a half circle like this for its mouth. I'm thinking something like that. Okay. Now, on a still life drawing, the hard thing for students to do is to figure out how to get started. But you've seen me draw a simplified version of Shrek, as you can see here, showing you how to get started, making it simple first, and then when I'm fairly confident with my simplified version of Shrek, then I can go back and begin to add some details and erase those simple shapes using that same process that we've used before when we've drawn, Flounder, Pluto, Dewey, and Daffy. I feel good about the proportions of this figure, and I'm ready for some details.